Kamen Rider Zi-O.
Hey YouTube, Kamen Rider here, welcome to my Kamen Rider Zi-O catch-up review. As I mentioned in my Lupin Ranger Pat Ranger review, if you watched that, there's a bit of delay for the holidays. Every now and then I will fall behind on these, unfortunately, and I'll do kind of, catch-up reviews like this where I go over multiple episodes. It kind of worked out though because I get to go over both of these arcs, and they were kind of tied together by DK himself. So yeah, basically what I had missed in terms of reviews was we had the Ghost arc, which also featured Kamen Rider Decade in it, and we had the second arc, which is like a non-specific arc. I mean, Decade was in it and he was definitely tied to it, but it was more about Zi-O, the show itself, I would say. You can maybe call it a little mini Oma Zi-O arc. But just to start with the Ghost stuff, I'm not going to go over every scene by scene, just kind of some overall thoughts. And I have to say, I've been quite enjoying Zi-O this last month. I really liked the Ghost Decade arc. I thought the Ghost arc was cool because they did Ghost better than Ghost did itself. Like, I liked another Ghost design. It looked very creepy, but it leaned on the paranormal aspects far better than Ghost did, because Ghost kind of went for the more silly stuff. I mean, this wasn't like super dark and paranormally, but I mean, no, and they kind of leaned towards the eyeball theme of all things as the series went on. And this one actually felt like they utilized the Ghost concept better. It was the best episode, like the best standalone episode of Ghost I saw. So I thought that was cool. But also what was neat about it is that even though I like that they did the paranormal stuff better, I also thought it worked really nicely as a Ghost tribute, because the way things were structured with like Takeru and his friends, solving these ghost problems felt very reminiscent of the way the earlier Ghost standalone episodes felt. So I really liked that about it. I thought Takeru was well utilized, and given like that he was still kind of in that paranormal field, like it made sense that he was still, involved in the plot even when he didn't know he was Ghost. And then, he went back to the past with Sogo, because Sogo got turned into a ghost, which again is another nod to Ghost's concept. Although it's funny Takeru got to stay tangible, although it probably has something to do with the ghost system. I don't know, it's been a while. But, because he piloted the Tide My Genes, and it was really cool because when the timeline got, fixed, it kind of didn't make sense because Sogo still wouldn't be in a hospital bed, because everything would shift, but, they play very fast and loose with time travel rules in the series. But it was really cool because when he was there, when Takeru was helping after they fixed everything, he got his belt back right when Spectre showed up. So I thought that was a cool moment. It was cool to see Spectre, even if it was briefly, like just because it was a neat cameo, but also just like contextualize everything within Ghost. I thought that was super cool. So I really liked everything involved with that, the way they used that. It was kind of weird that, like I mentioned this before, that the way that the time jackers choose their candidates is weird. I'm guessing that they're probably just trying to find a mouthpiece to, do their will, but it just doesn't make sense when you think about it when they initially state, like, we want to find a replacement for this leader in the future, and they're just picking randos, with I think the only one I can really remember making sense was Dan, and everyone else is like, okay, this guy just, his qualifications is he got hit by a beam. Gauze. What Oz? But yeah, so that's kind of weird. But I liked that, but I also liked Decade being in it, because he was kind of recruited by the Time Jackers, and his role was very fitting in the fact that he, just kind of does what he wants. One of the Time Jackers even said that at one point, and he's just kind of, obviously has his own agenda. He might not even know what that agenda is. It's super cool to see the Neo DK driver. It's like super, fan servicey and like exciting for me to see him using the post Decade riders and stuff like that, and hearing the belt say it, and that was super cool. And honestly, because I'm not too huge of a fan of everybody on the show, I was just enjoying him, kicking everyone's ass, and I was kind of on his team. I'm like, can he just win and take over the show? And we have Decade too, so that was super cool. And I like how that we were able to do a 2-episode Ghost tribute, and then bring Decade in. It made it more interesting, less formulaic, and also it worked out because they used it to debut Decade's Ride Watch. Since we already debuted Ghosts, we got the explanation that Ghosts are the one that Gates had from the future was from the future, which I always just assumed. I don't know why they had to destroy it, but and there was cool fights there with like multiple people using ghost powers and stuff like that. And then we debuted the Decade form, which I respect the creativity of it, because they used the card face, because Decade used cards, and then it's filled in by these mid-season combos, which they call Final Form. I always call them combos ever since I was, sorry. But I respect the creativity of that. I think that's neat, but I just they're so ugly. And over the course of the 3 episodes between the debut and then the 2, he just keeps using it so much. I'm like, oh, I'm already sick of seeing it. It's been 3 episodes and I'm like, oh, what armor is he gonna use? He's like, oh, he's gonna use another decayed one, because the decayed one gives him access to all these final forms. But I respect the creativity, but I'm not the hugest fan of it, and it's already been a bit overused for me. I hope that doesn't continue to be too much and it doesn't become the next Ghosto. But yeah, that was cool. The Oma Zi-O arc I thought was really neat. I was really surprised in general when we saw previews for this that we were going to have Oma Zi-O and Zi-O crossing paths so soon. I expected more so around, I don't know, the 30s or late 20s at the earliest. But I thought that was cool. It was brief, but it was really cool. And it was more so about, you know, reaffirming Sogo's goals for him and I think the audience a bit. And sort of settling this Gates thing, hopefully settling it. I'm definitely mixed on some of that, but I thought it was cool getting to see him go to the future. We learned a little bit more about why he wants to be a king or an overlord. It's because of a dream he had of when he was little. He was like witnessing destruction and some shadowy figure said you're destined to be a king. So there's definitely something going on there. I'll get to that in a second. But that was kind of neat. Seeing him confront Oma Zi-O was cool because it seemingly, I say seemingly just because I don't want to say anything for sure, like 100% confirmed and then get proved wrong in like 2 minutes, but confirms that at least the person in the suit at this point in time is future Sogo. I know that that's the premise, so like, Dawson, you're an idiot, that's the premise, but, you know, there's been all kinds of theories about, like, what if Gates is actually Oma Zi-O, could be Woz, could be somebody else, because that was a theory I had too. Not a theory that I wanted, because the thing that makes Sogo the most interesting to me is the fact that he does become this dude. I think that's interesting, and it adds something different to it, and I didn't want to see them cop out and be like, oh no, it's Gates, or it's some other villain, because I thought that they could easily swap that out and be like, oh no, somebody else is Oma Zi-O, but like Sogo becoming Zi-O was like vital to this dude's journey. I mean, that could still happen in some aspect. The timeline could change because that's what we're getting into now. But I think they're gonna more so go for there's somebody manipulating him. I'm curious whether or not he, like Oma Zi-O in the future, is aware he's being manipulated and he's like, you know, colluding with some people that give him instructions, or if he's being puppeteered. But there's definitely someone, or nobody could be controlling him and everything he does is his decision, but somebody wanted to put him in that position. So it's clear that somebody manipulated Sogo to get to that point. But I'm glad that right now they're keeping that seemingly as him, because when Sogo saw his future self, he's like, oh yeah, that's me. We didn't get to see his face, which part of me thought, well, is that because maybe Sogo just thinks it's him and like his face is obstructed, it's actually somebody else? I think it's more of a case of Sogo can see him and he can see, yeah, that's old me, but we can't see him because they haven't figured out who they're gonna cast yet, or if they're gonna try to do old man makeup on Sogo's actor. But I thought that was neat, and it kind of ended with Oma Zi-O being like, well, if you don't want to be me, just cast away your driver, which called back to earlier when Gates said, dude, just give up the driver. And he did that, he threw the driver, and Gates destroyed it, and he seemingly gave up his dream on the future. And like, Oma Zi-O laughs before he disappears, because for a brief time the timeline did completely erase that. So seemingly the time doctors should have disappeared. I don't know, it's very messy. But, you know, he did throw it away. But then, as suspected, you know, it didn't last for long. He then resolved that he wants to be a good king. It's basically still the same resolve he had, where I still want to be an overlord, which again, super weird motivation. I get why we're getting to it, but it's still weird. Like, he's like, well, I can't be an overlord now. I'm like, you know, you could just, you know, find another passion. You could run for political office and just run for a normal position other than overlord. You could just anything besides being weird like that. But you know, basically he's in the same place, but it sort of strengthened in his resolve, and trying to strengthen the resolve to the audience of showing that he's willing to give that up for the greater good, and that it could change things. So it's not like, you know, he's saying he's going to be good and it's not going to lead anywhere. It's showing that the timeline's malleable. So that's the purpose of that, which I kind of liked that. I still am not a fan of the whole overlord thing. It's just weird. Like, I talk about that for a long time. I'm not going to go on about that again. And it was also to sort of clear things up with Gates. To the sense where Gates is the one that gives him his driver, even though after Sogo gives it up, Woz is like, I got another one on a pillow right here. I just went down to Toys R Us. I still exist here. I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on that. So that made it super easy. So now they swapped. Like, Gates has the new pillow driver, and Zi-O has Gates' old one. But he's the one that gives it to him in seeing basically what we've been seeing, like Sogo protected this kid, so it's more about Gates now being committed to the idea that this version of Sogo can be good and history's not written. I hope that's just resolved now. Again, I could go on for a long time about how messy I think Gates' story was handled, because it's still, if you're coming from a time of this absolute despair, I don't care how good a guy Sogo is, I feel like there just wouldn't be that much hesitation. You know what I mean? It's just like not worth the risk. Well, this might be good, so I can risk a super depressing future. I would just be like, you know what? The worst Terminator of all time. I don't know. When I get to like a series wrap or maybe like a significant midway point or something, I could talk about that forever, but I'm just not a fan of the way Gates was handled in general. But I like these episodes, and I just hope that this keeps the resolve and like we don't have to rehash this, because I feel like every 2-episode arc we were on this loop of Gates being like, I don't know about this Zi-O guy, forgot his name for a second, and then he's like, I'm gonna have to kill him, and so he's like, no, and he's like, okay, but I'm gonna have to kill him, so he's like, no, and he's like, okay, and I'm kind of sick of it. And Decade was in this episode a bit too, just kind of messing around, and then he left saying we'll see him again, which I assume we will. But it was really cool that we got Decade for 4 episodes. I'm glad he got a larger role, given his role in like the Rider multiverse, and I'm glad we'll probably see him again. And I felt like I was harping on a lot of the stuff there, but I was just because I think some of the story decisions are kind of messy, both character and timeline-wise, but I really enjoyed these episodes. Solid Ghost tribute, solid stuff in terms of Zi-O's plot that made it intriguing, and then we're showcasing, as we're teasing into the next arc, that whatever he did does seem to have changed the timeline, so we're going to get future Waz, which is super cool. So even though I still think there's a lot of hot mess going on here, it's been an enjoyable hot mess, and I'm looking forward to finding out stuff in the future, quite literally. But yeah, I'm not going to give an overall score to these 4 episodes or anything like that, just that I've been enjoying it, and I will try to get back on track after this and do it like 2-episode arcs at a time. I think for this is better just because it is. Anyway, that's about it. Sorry about the delay. Again, until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and of course, don't forget to climb the steps and ring that bell to get notifications for all my videos. Till next time, Dawson Rider, signing out.